An explosive report by the RCMP Civilian Review and Complaints Commission was shared with APTN this past week. It contained allegations that some Prince George RCMP members assaulted underaged Indigenous sex trade workers. APTN senior online reporter Kathleen Martins joined Dennis Ward to discuss.
Kathleen, thanks for being with us. Can you tell us a bit about this report that brought up these old accusations?
For sure. Hi, Dennis. So it's the RCMP Civilian Review Complaints Commission. It received a complaint from a Mountie. He's now retired. And he was just fed up with waiting more than 5 years for the RCMP to respond and investigate his allegations. So he took it to this commission, which does investigations in the public interest involving the RCMP.
And so why did the senior officer complain?
He'd received information that up to 9 RCMP officers, including a provincial court judge who was later convicted, were sexually interfering, somehow involved, these are allegations, remember, with young girls, 13, 14 years old, on the streets of Prince George, BC. This was in the late 1990s, early 2000s. He received some information, including that there were some videotapes that may have incriminating information on them. And he right away contacted senior RCMP and E Division, that's RCMP headquarters in BC, and they assured him that they were going to look into it immediately.
And so then why did he have to go to this commission?
Well, practically speaking, that's why, because he went to RCMP and he said to me, I waited like year after year after year after year, and I didn't hear anything. And as part of filing a complaint to this commission, the RCMP are supposed to keep the complainant informed about what it's doing. And so he said it was only after that he filed with the Complaints Commission that he started to hear some information from the RCMP, but it took a lot of pushing on his behalf, plus going outside the RCMP to get any kind of action, as far as he knew, going on these allegations, which are really serious.
Well, and this area, of course, is along the Highway of Tears in northern BC. This is where RCMP are supposed to be investigating dozens of cases of missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls.
Yeah, it's pretty embarrassing for the RCMP. You know, you may recall, as our viewers will, that RCMP actually apologized for their handling of those cases at the National Inquiry into violence against Indigenous women and girls. So Brenda Lucky, the RCMP commissioner right now, she signed off on this report after satisfying herself that it had been investigated internally, these allegations, and there wasn't evidence, the report said, to charge these officers criminally, so it was dropped. She signed off on it and then sent it to this retired officer. His name is Gary Kerr, and he sat on it for about a year, and then he made it public to reporters.
So, Kathleen, what happens now?
Well, as you know, there's no statute of limitations on like a sexual assault in Canada. So there could still be some activity on this if those victims, who are probably in their 30s, maybe 40 now, come forward again. Otherwise, I'm going to keep writing about it. The Vancouver Sun, who broke the original story, is continuing to write about it. And that's all we can do, is keep it in the public eye as more and more First Nations and Indigenous groups become aware of it and I'm sure they'll start pressuring the RCMP for some kind of explanation.
And you can find those stories by Kathleen over on our website, aptnnews.ca. Kathleen, thanks for your work on this, and thanks for giving us an update.
Thanks for having me, Dennis.